r/AskReddit, divorce lawyers of Reddit. What is the most ridiculous reason your client filed divorce for? He loved his pinball machine collection more than her. Also, it turns out some pinball machines can be worth a buttload of money. I had two couples come to me. They had been friends for nigh on 15 years. Husband A decided he liked wife B more than wife A. Wife A decided she likes husband B more than husband A. The reverse was also true, and husband B preferred wife A. Wife B preferred husband A. The couples had near identical assets in terms of value. They came to me all together, and I drafted 2 sets of paperwork. 2 default judgment hearings were set on the same day. The judge signed all the papers the same day. A week after that, they all went to a JP and remarried. The husbands swapped houses and they all went about their lives exactly as they had the week before, but each slightly happier. Not me, but my friend who specializes in family law. Wife wanted to divorce husband because he kept taking their dogs for walks while she was at work, making it unintentionally, so they'd rather cuddle the husband instead of her after a long day. I had a client file for divorce because every morning his wife would ask him how he takes his coffee for 7 years. I heard of a woman that had her marriage annulled because the groom insisted to bring his mother on their honeymoon. Then, on the honeymoon, the bride discovered the reason he wanted to bring his mother was to feed him. Yes, the groom, a grown man, was still feeding. My boss just got divorced. His wife was telling people one of her reasons was the amount of toilet paper he used. She was a super coupon clipper thrifty lady and would listen when he went to the bathroom to see if he was using too much TP. My neighbor filed for divorce because he smacked his lips when he ate and slurped his coffee and soup. She thought if she didn't she would end up in jail for battery. My dad split my mom because she takes too long to tell a story. He was actually having an affair the 4,795,809,374 time, and that came out shortly after. But this was one of the main reasons he gave when they did a counseling session together. Not a divorce lawyer, but there's this famous case that all law students know about. The wife asked for annulment of marriage because almost a year into the marriage, they still haven't had. The husband has been avoiding it for almost a year, and later on the court found out that he actually only has a 2-inch lawyer here. One of mine that sticks out is that the husband and wife both played some sort of online role-playing game. Sort of like The Sims, I think, but a little more elaborate and adult. Second Life maybe? I don't know anything about online games. The wife got heavily involved with the game, like 10 hours a day, and wouldn't reduce her time playing, no matter what he said. What tipped things over the edge, however, was that he set up a fake profile avatar and went online to stalk her in the game, and found her avatar having with some random guy's avatar. Nothing ever happened in real life. Neither of them were exactly oil paintings to look at, but that was enough for the guy to initiate a very acrimonious divorce. Hopefully soon to be former divorce attorney. I've seen tons of crazy reasons for people to get divorced. Some of them stupid, some of them make perfect sense. I had one person get divorced because her husband wouldn't take her out to the movies anymore. I had one client who looked through her husband's phone and found out he was hiring male escorts while he was on business trips. One female client got a divorce because she hated with her husband. Her last relationship before she got married was pretty intense, and I guess her husband just didn't match up. I've had a few clients who were teachers get divorced because their spouses found out they were having indecent relationships with students. All of the teachers were female. One divorce involved an elderly couple who had both recently been widowed. They had both been married to their individual spouses for over 40 years. They married each other out of loneliness. About 2 years into the marriage, they realized they made a huge mistake. They couldn't stand each other. It was weird seeing 80-year-olds complaining about the same thing you see kids arguing about. Not a divorce lawyer. One couple that I'm close to were in the process of filing for divorce. Papers were served, and lawyers were involved. But the husband put down for one of his reasons why things were irreconcilable was because she would crap in his bathroom. I'm sure not exactly in those words. Happy to say that they worked through that issue and are still together. He kept making terrible Star Wars puns. Divorce is strong with this one. Not an attorney but a paralegal. This isn't why they filed, but the guy didn't think his wife should be able to divorce him because she had Lyme's disease. He thought that having had this impaired her mental facilities, and therefore she was not in her right mind to make this decision. We were just the gal for the kids, so every so often we would get calls from him going on and on about this. Heard this one. While mobbing for deployment, guy signs over power of attorney to his mother before leaving. As soon as he was out of the country, mother files for divorce of the wife because they never got along. Dude is in the middle of the desert and didn't know until he came back in 3 weeks after the fact. Not a lawyer, but 2 stories. Wife wanted to divorce her husband on their wedding day because he fought with her father over the bill. Another was a woman who divorced her husband of a week because she's been in love with someone else for several months and found out the other guy loved her too. They're married and have a kid together now. Not a lawyer, but a friend of mine divorced her husband because his dick was too big. They were dating about 6 months, got a courthouse wedding, and separated about 6 months after. She said it was fun at first, but the sex became too much work. She said it took a lot of preparation. Apparently, as well, he was pushing for some bud stuff. When she first told me offhand, I refused to believe it. She showed me a picture of them dancing at their reception and holy damn, was this guy packing heat. A friend of the family got divorced by her husband because she couldn't outperform him on the golf course. We all think he was cheating and just wanted an excuse, but she did say he would often yell at her in public while golfing and mock her for her attention to detail, whatever the frick that means in golf. He would also force the family to go golfing on most weekends, so it's hard to say if that was the real reason or not. She doesn't even like golf but was, and still is, afraid to tell him that. My dad has been married several times, more than 4. His last wife asked him to rub her feet, and he said no. She told him to get the frick out. He was super excited and said okay bye, you will hear from my attorney. Obviously that was the straw that broke the camel's back. Makes me laugh every time someone asks why did they split up. No feet rub for you. Estate's paralegal here. Saw a divorce where the defendant stopped cooking, and when the petitioner gave the defendant money for food, ate his, so was phrased as housekeeping money, the defendant would disappear for 2 weeks and play bingo. The defendant also lost interest in the chittle the bingo comment, and stopping cooking comment will forever be ingrained in my head. Not a divorce lawyer, but was told of a client that filed for divorce with his wife because she kept eating his food. Client said her husband was dealing meth, well technically cooking meth. Divorce lawyer here. One client filed for divorce because he owed his bookie $70,000. He didn't want to leave his wife, but he figured he would get half the house in the divorce, which was worth $700,000, and pay his debts. He had already blew through their life savings gambling. He was the worst guy. My mother-in-law divorced my father-in-law so she could have a fresh start with her dream job of teaching blind children to read. Turns out, what she meant by that was destroy my father-in-law's pastor career by telling everyone he was abusive. Got married to the guy she'd secretly been carrying on with. He's a convicted child offender. She has grandchildren. She's in a state of complete denial. He didn't help her put up a shower curtain. It may have been a straw that broke the camel's back situation though. Best reason, cops showed up to tell her that her husband is a violent child offender and she's now aiding and abetting because her house is next to a school. Not a lawyer, but a friend is. They said the husband wanted a divorce because the wife still wiped her of the perfectly healthy and mentally able teenage son, among other things. Not a lawyer, but did spend 6 months costing legal aid cases for solicitors in the early 90s. This included many divorces. The most notable one was a woman divorcing her husband because he discovered he could talk to the dead on their honeymoon, and then later spent all their money on spiritualist groups. That wasn't what made it notable. During the divorce, the woman left the house. At some point her husband approached her and claimed that as he was letting the house fall into ruin, it would be better for both of them if he sold the house and split the proceeds with her. She agreed to this without consulting her solicitor. A few weeks later the husband gave her £5. She asked what it was for. It was her share of the house. He'd sold it to his sister for £10 and kept living there. When she went to complain to her solicitors, she found they'd done the conveyancing for him. He'd deliberately used his wife's divorce solicitors and nobody at the firm had realized. Not a divorce lawyer, but had done marriage therapy. Had a soldier stationed at Guantanamo Bay that met a local. Fell madly in love. They decided to get married so she could come with him back in the States once his tour was done. She was working on American dishes and was making spaghetti. He comes home from work one day and she's making it. She puts the meat in, puts the canned sauce in, and then pulls an unlabeled bag out of the freezer and adds it to the sauce. At this point in the session she's hysterically crying with broken Spanglish. She's trying to explain she didn't know any better. Through the hysteria he informs me her mother and grandmother told her if she wanted to keep her man, she needed to put her menstrual blood in his food. It was so hard to keep my composure. I was trying too hard not to gag. They both described they were madly in love, but he couldn't let it go. They ended up getting a divorce. Having done this for 14 years, I have found it 100% accurate that truth is stranger than fiction.